Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. Man, PED scandals. It just seems to be more and more people out here trying to get away with cheating in fights, and they're getting caught. Okay? So, let me tell you something. This guy, Francisco Rodriguez Jr., he had a fight against Galal Yafai. Got a big win, but also had a big problem. He had a very strong showing. Very, very strong showing. But now that whole performance is under a cloud. And you never guess why. Because both of those guys had PED testing done. But for Rodriguez, his reports indicate that dumbass tested positive for octodrying and its metabolite. There was a presence of something called heptaminol. Don't shoot the sheriff if I'm mispronouncing this shit, but this is what he had in the system. And there were adverse findings for oxaliferine. And as a result, he got a 2-year suspension. So, good for him. Good for him. He earned a take it to the stupid award. You know what I'm saying? But this is the problem. And we got to pay attention when we're watching these fighters get in the ring. When you have a fighter like him who has this performance where an extremely high output, sustained pressure, strong endurance late, they just don't get tired. You got to question, how they're able to perform like that. Now, I don't want to take away from any fighter who's actually putting in the work and getting in tip-top shape. One fighter comes to mind when I think about somebody, when they get in that ring, they look normal. Start off strong. As the fight progresses, they start to look a little bit normal. A little fatigue sets in. They can push all the way through the 12 3-minute rounds, but they start to look a little normal. That's Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant looks to me like how a fighter should look inside a ring. You know what I'm saying? Some of these other cats, like this Rodriguez fella, I'm telling you, man, you got to ask, is that shit natural when a person can perform like that? Every round goes by, they get stronger and stronger and stronger. So is that natural or chemically assisted? And I think it's important to be fair. A positive test doesn't automatically explain every moment in a fight, but it raises serious questions about enhanced stamina, recovery, and intensity. And in boxing, man, a small edge can change everything, you know what I'm saying? Especially, it can change whether a person, exits the ring on their feet or exits the ring on a stretcher and ends up in the hospital or dies. Okay, so shit is nothing to joke about. Now, as far as what these substances do, I'm trying to break it down for you. I did some research. Octodrying, DMHA. It's a stimulant, boosts energy, focus, and aggression, can increase endurance and reduce fatigue. Fighters benefit more from output and less exhaustion. So for fighters on that, there you go. Heptaminol, circulatory stimulant, increases blood flow and oxygen delivery. Fighters benefit better endurance, recovery during rounds. So when you hear people have shit like this in their system, this is not normal, folks. So, and it's a fighter with that in their system, so more than likely they were trying to get an advantage. Then oxaliferine, powerful stimulant, similar class to banned performance enhancers, increases your heart rate, explosiveness, alertness. Fighters benefit from higher intensity, faster reactions. So now that we understand that, this guy can say what the hell he wants. He got in that ring to kill Yafai. That's what Rodriguez got in there. He fought Galal Yafai. He got in there to kill him. So 2 years, he's lucky. They should get his ass up out the sport, in my opinion. Out of Mexico, too. A lot of Mexican fighters be on that shit. A lot of them. That's why I'm concerned about Lamont Roach fighting William Zepeda. William Zepeda is now working with Eddy Reynoso, Canelo's coach. And you know how many of them fighters he was training pop dirty for some kind of shit. So Lamont Roach better be careful. But when you have guys on PEDs, it matters in a fight. And when you bring together those 3 things that I just mentioned, those 3 drugs, you can get nonstop pressure, faster recovery between exchanges, ability to push pace beyond natural limits. And that's a dangerous, dangerous advantage in boxing. So the 2-year ban for Francisco Rodriguez, I mean, it may sound brutal. I mean, it is brutal. But I mean, shit, at the end of the day, he cheated. But 2 years means a loss of momentum, loss of rankings, loss of trust, potential loss of big opportunities. And if he truly can't fight globally, he may. I mean, look, he may come back to a completely different landscape. Because boxing, when it comes to boxing and inactivity, it kills careers. So it looked to me like, as a result of testing positive for PEDs, he got a 2-year suspension, which leads to inactivity, and he killed his own career. So that's his problem. Now shifting to another concern, like I just mentioned, Zepeda and Roach. Zepeda's hooked up with Eddy Reynoso. Let me tell you something, Eddy Reynoso's a top trainer. You got to give him respect. But this shit raising concerns, man, when he have all them guys testing positive out of his camp. Doesn't mean current fighters are doing anything wrong, but perception matters in boxing. And that's why fans are watching this closely. Zepeda is another one. High volume, pressure heavy, relentless pace. So when you combine a pressure fighter, a camp that's been under scrutiny before, guys like Hood Champions start asking questions. Even though if nothing's proven, I'm going to ask questions. What do we really have going on here? Zepeda can't afford another setback. He lost to Shakur Stevenson. He's in a must-win situation. He loses another loss. He drops out the elite contention. Big fights start to disappear and evade him. And with Lamont Roach, fans are really concerned. Really concerned. He coming off of back-to-back draws. He needs a clear, decisive win. Facing a dangerous, high-pressure opponent like Zepeda, shit is all bad. And that's why you have the concern from fans. It's not accusation, it's anxiety. Fans are worried about Zepeda's relentless pace, the physical demands of fighting someone like Zepeda, and the broader conversation around PEDs and boxing right now, especially after recent headlines like this guy Rodriguez. Rodriguez had like three different things in his ass. That's crazy. So the reality is for Lamont Roach, he's got to control that distance, stay disciplined, avoid getting overwhelmed by volume, because against pressure fighters like Zepeda, if you fall behind early, your ass is in trouble. So, to me, when you talk about Rodriguez's suspension, it reminds everyone that PEDs can change careers overnight. It can destroy their opponent, but if they test positive, they destroy themselves. And then Zepeda versus Roach, now that carries extra attention. Not accusations, but scrutiny. And in today's boxing climate, fans are watching everything more closely than ever, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, good luck to Lamont Roach and his team. But I'd make sure there's some very specific and in-depth testing. Because, man, last thing he needs is to get in there with Zepeda, and Zepeda just brush him up out the ring in a couple rounds. And then Zepeda come back and find out that he was on the juice. We don't need any more Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney fights. We don't need that. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, keep cool in the breeze.